What's up, BookTube? Sandy Golson back here with another video, and I'm going to talk about my September 2020 TBR. It's actually going to be a pretty slimmed down TBR in the sense that I'm going to set the goals pretty modest right now. I just had a rough month of August from a physical health standpoint, as well as from a reading standpoint. I only finished 3 books in the month of August, and I had another book that I was reading, and then I just kind of stalled, and I decided that I needed a different kind of book to kind of get myself back on the horse, so to speak, and to break my reading slump. So I decided to shift gears with my reading and decided that I'm going to zero in on 5 books that I'm going to focus on reading in the month of September. I'm going to really try not to buy any other books. Yeah, right. And I'm going to hopefully be able to focus on these 5 books that I'm going to go over just really briefly, not going to get too deep into these books, but these are the books I'm really going to focus on reading, and I'm going to present them to you in the order that I intend to read them. Although the first 2 I'm tempted to try to read at the same time. That might not necessarily be good for a reading slump, but we'll figure that out as we go along. So without further ado, here's what's on tap for me in the month of September of 2020. Okay, first up is The Swallows by Lisa Lutz, and this is a book that I was extremely excited about a few months ago, and I ended up not reading it because I had a run of books that I was reading about stories that were taking place with kids at like boarding schools or prep schools of some kind, and I'd read a bunch of them and they were good. I really enjoyed them, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to take a break. Though I really was excited about reading this one, I decided, you know what, I'm going to take a little bit of a break from this and come back to it. And then the book was buried behind me right about there at the bottom of this. I actually knocked that whole stack over trying to get to it, but I did end up getting to it nonetheless. So I picked this one back up because it just popped in my head that this is one that I need to grab. So let me just tell you a little bit about this book. A teacher at a New England prep school ignites a gender war with deadly consequences in this dark and provocative novel by the author of The Passenger. So there's some really cool stuff going on in this book. It's a little bit of a long book, and so I'm hoping that's not bad for me in terms of a reading slump, because my attention span is just kind of not great right now. So I'm hoping that I'm not penalized by this. But the reason I did pick this up, even though it's a little bit longer, pushing up on 400 words, is because I think with the type of content here, and it has a lot of things that I really enjoy reading about, I'm not too worried about not being able to work through this. I think this is going to be a quick read for me, and I'm really excited about The Swallows. Next up, staying on the trend of prep school stories, which again, I decided not to read The Swallows, and for the same reason, I didn't jump into the Truly Devious series for the very same reason. But we're changing that right now. So Truly Devious, it's a 3-book series. I actually have the other 2 as well. Truly Devious. Ellingham Academy is a famous private school in Vermont, founded by an early 20th century tycoon for the best and brightest students around. When Ellingham's wife and daughter were kidnapped, the only clue was a mocking riddle listing methods of murder signed with frightening pseudonym Truly Devious. Their disappearance became one of the great unsolved crimes in history. Many years later, true crime aficionado Stevie Bell is set to begin her first year at the academy, and she is determined to solve the cold case. That is, she will solve it when she gets a grip on her demanding new school life and her housemates, the inventor, the novelist, the actor, the artist, and the jokester. But Truly Devious makes a surprise return. The past has crawled out of its grave, and someone has gotten away with murder. Truly Devious is the first novel in a murder mystery trilogy by New York Times bestselling author Maureen Johnson. So I'm excited about this one. I've heard differing reviews, but actually still largely positive about Truly Devious. So I'm looking forward to jumping into this one. I think it's going to be really good. I think it's going to probably be a good complement to The Swallows. Next up is The Black Kids by Christina Hammonds Reed. And this is a book that I kind of stumbled across, but I thought it was interesting for a few reasons. Number one, I really want to focus on diverse voices because it's rough out there in these streets. And so I really wanted to focus on voices told from different perspectives, different cultural and racial perspectives. And so this is one that I picked up, but not just for that reason. And I think when I read a little bit of the inside cover, I think you'll see, because at the age that I am, there's some things that I remember about particularly Los Angeles. I'm not from Los Angeles, I'm from Detroit, but from Los Angeles in the early 1990s, when you had the Rodney King situation, the Rodney King trial, the Rodney King verdict, and then the so-called Rodney King riots of 1992. And so I thought, when I started looking at what this book was about, I thought this is going to be kind of interesting for me. So let's check this out. Los Angeles, 1992. Ashley Bennett and her friends are living a charmed life. It's the end of senior year and they're spending more time at the beach than in the classroom. Ashley's not always so sure she likes her friends these days, but they've been besties since kindergarten. Everything changes one afternoon in April when 4 LAPD officers are acquitted of beating black man Rodney King half to death. Suddenly, Ashley's not just one of the girls. She's one of the black kids. So, and there's more I could read, but I think you get the picture of kind of what I was doing, foreshadowing it beforehand. So I'm really excited about this because I think that it just is going to tell a story that I think is very, very interesting. And I think it's just very necessary. So I'm really excited about reading this. Really great cover art, by the way. I really like the cover art here. And you can see the flames in the background there, the palm trees there. So really just an attractive cover right there. And I'm just excited about picking this one up. So, The Black Kids by Christina Hammonds Reed. Next up is a book that I kind of stumbled across on Amazon. And I kind of half-heartedly put myself on a book buying suspension, with the exception of Book of the Month. And yet I stumbled across a book that just sounded a little too good to pass up, and that is Fantastic Land by Mike Bachoven. This book, I've heard some people say it gives you kind of a Lord of the Flies kind of feel here. It says, since the 1970s, Fantastic Land has been the theme park where fun is guaranteed. But when a hurricane ravages the Florida coast and isolates the park, the employees find it anything but fun. 5 weeks later, the authorities who rescue the survivors encounter a scene of horror. Photos soon emerge online of heads on spikes outside of rides, viscera and human bones littering the gift shops, breaking records for hits, views, likes, clicks, and shares. How could a group of survivors, mostly teenagers, commit such terrible acts? So you kind of see where that's going. I think people who are familiar with Lord of the Flies will probably say, whoa, okay, maybe can kind of see where that's going and maybe relate to it. I have not read Lord of the Flies, so that's one of the classics that I have not read, so I need to put that on the old list back there, or get that in, I know I have a copy of it somewhere, I just gotta track it down and find it. But Fantastic Land was a book that just kind of jumped out at me, and I thought, you know what, as dark as it sounds, as kind of chilling and creepy as it sounds, it also is kind of interesting. And lastly is a book that I've talked about in the past, so I won't get too much into it, but I did get a vote of confidence from one of my subscribers about a heart in a body in the world. And so I'm thinking that this is one that I'm going to pick up and actually read. Deb Coletti is the writer, and from Seattle to Washington, D.C., Annabelle is running through mountain passes and suburban landscapes, from long, lonely roads to college towns. She's not ready to think about the why yet, just the how. Muscles burning, heart pumping, feet pounding the earth. But no matter how hard she tries, she can't outrun the tragedy from the past year, or the person, the taker, that haunts her. So I'm really excited about this one too. I think this is going to be a really fast read, so this is definitely in my 5 for the month of September that I intend to read. So there you have it, my Fantastic 5 for the month of September 2020 that I am intending to read. I am pretty dedicated to reading these 5 books, so unless something unbelievable pops up, these are the 5 that I'm going to be targeting for the month of September 2020. So if you could, please hit that subscribe button for the channel and the like button for the video, and stay with me on this BookTube and AuthorTube journey here as we begin, believe it or not, to close out the year 2020. And if you're like most people, you're probably kind of ready for 2020 to end. So stick with me here. We got a few months left and hoping for a strong finish to 2020.